fell under his fence.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. I do not have any proclamations or board, committee, or personnel appointments this evening. Are there any reports of boards, agencies, or commissions? Any reports of boards, agencies, or commissions?
Oh, yes.
Yes, Administrator Finch.
Well, because of the damage that was done to Lincoln Park, we're going to have to move the location of Community Day to the Temple Plaza. So instead of being held at Lincoln Park, it's going to be at the Temple Plaza on Sunday, this coming Sunday, July 9th, from 2:30 to 4:30. So we're still going to need help, so please show up to help us with Community Day.
Thank you, Administrator. Items of information. As you all know, unfortunately, we have, not only in this community, but in this country, mental health and substance abuse crisis. It's something that there's not anyone in this room that I would bet that it hasn't affected you or someone that you love in some way. Our mental health board has been working with the county and with some other organizations in the state of Illinois on something that could be that I believe might be beneficial for our community. And as such, I've asked the executive director, Mr. Jim Russell, if he would come forth and give a short presentation this evening. Madam, I'll provide you with my copy once he finishes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Alderman, for giving me a few minutes of your time. We did pass out to you about a 6-page, just very brief introduction and description of a ROSC program. ROSC is Recovery Oriented System of Care. Over the last decade, we have had between 16 and 20 overdose deaths in this county every year. The people have ranged in age from late teens up until their 80s. And the people who are dying of drug overdoses are not the stereotypical drug users. They're business people, they're professionals, they're students, they're everyday folks who have gotten hooked on a horrible substance that has wound up taking their lives. There's not one single simple solution to the problem of opioid overdoses in our country. If there were, somebody a whole lot smarter than I am would have already figured it out. But one thing that is working in other states and is beginning to work in the state of Illinois is what is called a ROSC. And again, that's recovery-oriented system of care. One of the things that ROSC do that hasn't been tried as well as perhaps it should have before is involving the people who are in recovery in helping to determine and describe the kind of programs, the kind of services that are needed to help them get on the road to recovery, stay on the road of recovery, and maintain their recovery. So the Ross Council is made up of people who are in recovery. It's made up of service providers. It's made up of law enforcement people. It's made up of probation. It's made up of education people. It's made up of the business community. It's made up of all segments and all cross sections of a community. It'll be our intention to pull together a ROSC council. And if we're able to get funding, we'll have a coordinator who'll be a full-time employee of my office at the Vermilion County Mental Health Board, who will be charged with pulling together all the information about all the services, all the support groups, all the faith-based programs that exist in Vermilion County, and try to coordinate and communicate with all those providers so that we can provide more and better services for people who are in need. As the mayor mentioned, this is something that's impacting and affecting every community across this country. It's not just a Danville problem. It's not just a Vermilion County problem. It's a nationwide problem. Next Tuesday, the county board will be voting on a resolution to provide $75,000 of opioid settlement money toward this position. And I've provided a request to the mayor for the city to kick in another $25,000 to support this program. With the money, we would support a full-time coordinator, but then the other funding would go toward, first of all, doing a comprehensive survey of the needs and the services available in Vermilion County, and then start working again on pulling all those people together, getting the communications and keeping them open between all the players involved, and doing what we can as a community to try to help the people who are trying to get their lives back. Again, there won't be any one simple solution. Not everybody who's involved with a ROSC as a person in recovery is going to be successful. There's still going to be relapses, and we're not going to stop overdose deaths just with this one effort. But if we can save one life, it would be well worth our time and our money. I'm leaving you the 6 pages of information. If you've got any questions that you would like to ask me, I've got another appointment that I've got to get to tonight. But my office phone number is listed in the county offices. My email is vcmhb@vercounty.org. And if there's any way I can help you with any kind of question you might have, I'll be more than willing to answer to the best of my ability. Again, I thank you for your time, and I ask you to consider this proposal and this idea.
Thank you very much, Mr. Russell. We appreciate you and appreciate your efforts. So again, this is just informational at this time. I'm not asking you for a vote or anything. We will bring this through the regular committee process at the end of the month for your consideration. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you again.
I apologize. I know that he had something else, but I wanted to get you all the information so you could have time to look at it and digest it. At this time, I want to take a moment to thank everyone who worked so hard this last almost a week now to to get our community back on track and to make sure that everyone is safe as possible. I can't tell you how hard our men and women have worked across departments, but particularly in Public Works. They literally worked nearly around the clock those first 2 days to get everything cleaned up, and quite frankly had the roads passable except for those places where there were electric lines involved. So I want to say thank you, Director Carpenter, to you and your team. I also want to give a huge shout out, of course, to our fire and police departments. They did a lot of education. They did a lot of prevention for keeping people from getting into trouble. There were down wires all over town, and I think there were times where we'd park a cruiser or park a fire truck in front of one to keep people from getting hurt, and we appreciate that. Director Beath, a lot of times folks forget about the Danville Mass Transit, but the truth is a lot of people in our city can't get where they need to go without the buses, so I want to thank you guys. I want to thank particularly, this is the one that you will never see, but it's critically important, and that's our Agnel De Silva and our IT team, because the truth is if they hadn't gotten everything back up and running so quickly behind the scenes, then we would not have been able to continue serving you the way that we needed to. So not only to them, but to everyone that and everything, every team member, all that you guys did to get us back and make sure we could serve our people well, I want to thank you. I especially want to thank our partners. Particularly, I want to thank Chris Senior Services for opening a cooling center and charging station for us, as well as the Salvation Army. Melissa Wilhelm and her team went into action. They fed all of our first responders that second evening, and they came and did a food giveaway in town as well. So I just want to say that I appreciate them very much. But as importantly as all of those things, I want to say thank you to you, the citizens, because one thing that I'm always proud of is the way our people in Danville care for one another. The stories, I didn't get as many as I'd hoped, but I got a lot of amazing stories from people where folks helped each other out. You know, there were people out in the streets cutting limbs off of each other's cars. There were folks that brought each other food and diapers and medicine and things like that. And just want to say thank you all for everything that you did. So as a little token of thanks to the community, I put out a plea and asked people to share stories with me. And I told them that we would provide gift certificates to the winners of it, not only to the recipient so that they could get groceries if need be, but also to the person that helped them. That's something that I'm doing personally that's not coming out of the city coffers. And so I just wanted to read you one of the stories that I received about strangers helping each other. So a couple of hours after the storm on Thursday, when I was on a walk, I saw a family standing in their yard about 5 blocks from our home. We talked briefly about the storm, and I mentioned that we also have a large family and have a lot of food in our freezers that we were hoping wouldn't go bad. They responded by saying that they have a generator for their freezers, and I was welcome to come and borrow it if the outage lasted. I had no intention of taking them up on their offer, but thanked them for their generosity. Late the next afternoon, when we heard that we would likely have a couple more days without power, my husband decided to take some of our frozen items to a large empty freezer at work since they had power that morning. We unpacked one of the freezers, and he took bags of frozen meat across town only to find out that the workplace no longer had power. At that point, we didn't know what to do because we just let all the cool air out of that freezer and didn't have much ice to pack in with the meat. We decided to go and ask about the generator, and they immediately disconnected it from their freezers, showed us how to use it, and helped us load it into our van while refusing to accept any money. We were so grateful that they were willing to go out of their way to help us, strangers that they had just met the day before. Because of their generosity, we were able to save all the meat in our freezers, which was more than $1,000 worth of food. I don't know their names, but I do know the address, and I thank you for your consideration. And this is Mary Rayburn in the 1600 block of Oaks. So I just want to thank publicly all the people like those who helped the Rayburns for everything that you did to help those make it through a tough time. That's one thing about Danville is even when we have trying times, we stick together and help each other out. So thank you to them and to every person who did anything to help folks out during our time of need. At this time, Madam Clerk, do we have any petitions, communications, or audience comments?
Yes, we do, Mayor. Has everyone had a chance to complete a yellow audience comment card who wishes to speak this evening? Okay, when I call your name, please come to the podium, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. First, I have Ethan Burt, 304 Swisher of Danville, regarding the chickens.
Hello. Familiar faces and new faces. A couple of handouts for you. I am in here in favor of hens in Danville. The packets I'm handing out have all the actual information you would need, so I won't belabor them since I'm sure you will read them. I just have two things I'd like to draw your attention to. One is to please not dismiss this out of hand because it feels like an insignificant issue, considering there's more major issues at hand. But I think that's all the more reason to consider this because I think it's an easy win at a low cost. Secondly, I think that the majority, all but one, of the objections towards chickens is ameliorated by law-abiding citizens. I think the only problems you'll have are with bad actors, but to that point, bad actors are already going to do what they want to do. So I already know, well, I've heard many tales of neighbors having hens as it is, and we don't even have an ordinance for one, so how's that possible? So all this ordinance would do is permit law-abiding citizens proper channels to follow. So, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Burke.
Pastor Ken McRae of Danville regarding a community event.
Good evening to the mayor and to all the city council members. I am already encouraged by being present, sitting in that second seat. I was able to ear hustle the young ladies in the front row as they talk about working a chainsaw. So I think when I grow up, I want to be just like them. But is that a kid? Shucks. And I'm also connecting what was just shared concerning the need in our community. I wanted to give him a card before he left, but I realized I didn't have my billfold with me. So, Mr. Yates, I'm going to need a police escort going home. But what I've come to do is share with you some information concerning an event that's going to be taking place in the community. And I'd like to pass out some flyers. The extra ones you can pass back to me. And congratulations to the new city council members. Our congregation has been blessed with a new facility, and we want to, one, partner, because it's a very spacious building. We want to partner in any way possible with the city for any events that you may have. We have multiple classrooms and a very big sanctuary area that is able to accommodate any type of a conference or any type of a need. So we're going to be celebrating our church and also celebrating, thank you, the dedication of the building as well. We have several things taking place. On Thursday, there's going to be a service. On Friday, there's going to be a service. But what is really special, all of it is, because we close out on that Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. with the actual physical dedication of the building. But we're going to be having a leadership workshop on Saturday from 9 until 2. And I've had the pleasure of working with the three men that are part of this leadership summit or seminar, but we are blessed, I say honored, to have Sandra Finch as one of our presenters. All right. You can clap for her if you want to. It is really exciting to have her be a part of it. I wanted to encourage you all to come and support it. My time is up, but she's going to see my face in the audience, but it would mean so much to her to see your familiar faces in the audience. So I want to encourage you to be there, and if you aren't able to attend, we do receive $100 sponsorships. Just thought I'd throw that in there. Oh, and one more thing. I have members from Higher Dimension that are here. I did not bribe them, but I'm going to surprise them to take them to dinner today for coming to the city council meeting.
Oh, all right.
Ethan Massey of Danville regarding hens in Danville.
Hello, and thank you for your time. Yeah, I'm up here to say that I would ask for your consideration to reevaluate allowing hens in Danville. Really, there's to modify the ordinance very similarly to that of actually the city of Champaign, Illinois. They do currently allow hens in Danville and have had great success. Some of the reasons that I had presented this a few months ago on why this should be considered is, really hens allow for an opportunity to, from hearing of families who have hens, really allows, children and the youth in our town to, learn a sense of responsibility, understand where food originates from, good stewardship. And then, of course, there's also the bird flu that was last year, and egg availability went down to just 29%. You probably saw that at the grocery store with a dozen eggs really skyrocketing in price. Also, just to reference some work of past, there was a petition back in 2019 for hens in Danville, and there was over 170 signatures for that. And I think the packet provided will provide all the details, but appreciate your guys' time.
Thank you, sir.
Vince Coors of Danville regarding the allowance of wards to vote on allowing cannabis outlets in their ward. Hopefully I read that correctly.
Ladies and gentlemen, the last meeting we talked about the need to better control crowds, make sure they have licenses to march, whatever they do, in the city of Danville. There's conversation about opening up the zoning restrictions to allow facilities selling drugs elsewhere in Danville other than where they are currently restricted. And I would propose that you consider the concept that the citizens want to speak on this issue and hold a referendum, ward by ward, up or down vote, yes or no, cannabis in our neighborhood. And let the people speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Horse.
Terry Lake of Danville.
Hello, everyone. I'm Terry Lake, West Downtown neighborhood resident, and I wanted to thank the city for the quick response on the cleanup. And one thing, as I worked with my neighbors, and I was amazed at my neighbors' help, I have bought up many lots through the years that have old growth trees on them, and we had 4 trees down and our land just covered with limbs. And so we run 2 chainsaws 6 hours a day for 6 days straight, but we got it all cleaned up and carried to the curb, and now we need professional help, which we will get. But one thing when we were discussing with the neighbors was there was no alarms that went off. And so I was asked to come and ask why an alarm didn't go off when we were hit with such a storm. I mean, is there a logical reason for that? And then why wasn't the Civic Center opened as a cooling station? A lot of people left Danville. I know at least a dozen people that left Danville because the hotels won't let you stay if you're local, and had to go to Champaign or out of town to stay because of breathing issues or, where they require electricity to sustain their very lives. And then, of course, I took in what people I could, and then, when you're full, you're full. So I just thought that was something that, is there an explanation, Ricky? Do we know?
I don't know about the alarm, by the alarms wouldn't have been
Okay.
sounded. I'll have to check to see.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that at all. As far as cooling stations go, there was a cooling station opened at Chris Senior Services. They were our community partner in that. When we've opened cooling stations and warming stations in the past, we have never had even one person use them. I've opened cooling stations 3 times and warming stations twice, and we've never had one person use them. So the Red Cross has been, although they're willing, they've been a little bit hesitant to come, given that people have not used them in the past.
Okay, I was just curious, just questioning. Thank you.
Yes,
Just as a matter of information, the alarms are actually ran by Vermilion County Emergency Management System, so we don't have anything to do with any of the alarms at all. So.
okay. But if you all didn't hear one, we can check with them to see if they had any outages or whatnot. Madam Clerk, are there any other?
Yes. Mariah Zenders of Danville regarding chickens in Danville.
Mr. Zenders, if you want to hold the mic for her, or so that she can, or lower it, just to be sure everyone can hear her.
My name is Mariah Zenders and I am 8 years old. When I was 5, my family had chickens. 10 chickens. One time my favorite's name was Shaggy. She was the one. One time we went sledding together in the winter. The chickens hung up and kept me warm. At Christmas, I decorated the chicken coop. And I think Danville should allow chickens because they lay eggs, and then you wouldn't have to get them at the store. They're probably the best pets ever. They don't cost very much money. My chickens followed me. Okay, hold on. One time inside my head, and I tried to get her off, and it took me 5 minutes because she loved me so much. It was so funny. When we had chickens, they made me very happy, and when I was scared, I would think about them, and it made me feel better. They kept me company when I found out. I hope you will say yes to chickens in Danville. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Zenders.
That's all I have.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council this evening? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward and state your name.
Man, how do I follow up with that? Same issue, but man, it's hard to follow up. I'm also in support of this proposal.
Ma'am, can you give us your name?
Sorry, my name's Emily Ashbrook, and I'm also, that's my legal last name, because I haven't changed it yet since I've gotten married. This seems like a lot of work, a lot of paperwork that I'm just not necessarily interested in doing. But anyway, I'm very much in support of this proposal. They've done a fantastic job. Ethan has done a fantastic job in outlining all of the benefits and stuff. And I certainly appreciate hearing her opinion, because it's great to hear about how much it can benefit children too. We can talk about that all day long, but I guess just to add what's stuff that's not already been stated at this point is there are so many benefits to having chickens, and I just believe that, Champaign has clearly laid everything out and it's worked for them. And if it can work for them, it can work here. And my personal beliefs are that laws and policies should uplift people. They should encourage and incentivize them to be self-sufficient and be self-sustainable and be less dependent on our government. And so, when I grew up, my dad always told me, and I'm sorry if I had a dental procedure, I guess my mouth's a little numb still, but my dad always taught me when I grew up, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. And I believe that our laws and policies should reflect that and should encourage people and not disincentivize them to be reliant on the government. And this is a great way. And most people like this. Eggs used to be the cheapest form of protein to sustain our families, and we watched the prices skyrocket. And I just think there are ways to balance rights all around and to structure the law I believe that my rights end where somebody else's rights begin. And I think that Champaign's ordinance, as well as what's being proposed here, is a very fair and reasonable solution to everything. And I'm not like trying to be all braggy and toady and stuff, but I am a licensed attorney in Indiana, and so I've read many of laws and cases and stuff like that. And so I just think this is very fair, and I think it's very respecting of everybody's rights in order to get all the benefits out of this, but also not to trample on other people's rights and stuff, and to allow them to be free of a private or public nuisance in their own space. So I guess that's all I really have to say at this point in time, but I appreciate you letting me speak, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Right, now, item number 8, we do not have any zoning petitions this evening. However, you have before you the payrolls of June 23rd and 30th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Wilson, Wands?
Yes.
Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Hoare?
Yes.
Streaming? Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig? Yes. Teague? Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
11 yes.
11 yes, the motion carries. You also have before you the vouchers payable of June 27th and July 5th, as well as a special run of June 29th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve those?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Butler?
Yes.
Wilson? Wands?
Yes.
Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Hoare?
Yes.
Streaming? Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague? Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
11 yes.
11 yes, the motion carries. At this time, we will receive our Public Services Committee report in the absence of our chairman, Vice Chairman Pickering.
Thank you, Mayor. 11A is a resolution accepting the assistance to the firefighters AFG grant and amend the fiscal year 2023-2024 General Fund, Fire Division 22 budget. At this time, I make a motion to dispense with the reading and ask if for their approval. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Just one item of information. If you should accept this, then tomorrow Congresswoman Kelly will be presenting a check to us for this amount at the fire station number 3 at 11:45 a.m. Seeing no discussion or debate, roll call vote, please.
Alderman Wilson? Wands?
Yes.
Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Hoare?
Yes.
Streaming? Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague? Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
11 yes.
11 yes, the motion carries.
11B is a resolution authorizing the 5-year contract extension subscription of flock safety license plate readers. At this time, I'll make a motion to dispense with the reading and ask for their approval. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Alderman Wands?
Yes.
Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Hoare?
Yes.
Streaming? Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague? Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
11 yes.
11 yes, the motion carries.
11C is a resolution authorizing the trade or sell/disposal of unused police vehicles. At this time, I make a motion to dispense with the reading and ask for their approval. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Hoare?
Yes.
Streaming? Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague? Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Wilson? Wands?
Yes.
11 yes.
11 yes, the motion carries.
Items of information? I don't see any, so Mayor, at this time, this concludes our public service report.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chairwoman. At this time, we'll receive our Public Works Committee report. Chairman Poore.
Thank you, Mayor. We will meet next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Next Tuesday, 6 days from now, in these chambers at 6 p.m. And we do have items of information.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yeah, I'd just like to give an update of where we're at with the storm debris. We took roughly calls for 130 trees blocking or partially blocking roads last Thursday. Left at about 10 p.m. with our road crews having cleared all but about a dozen of those, and that was due to power lines and/or utility lines tied up into the fallen trees. We returned Friday morning and worked 12-hour day. Was able to clear several more of those, started our cleanup of everything, got all our press releases out. We came in Saturday and worked another 10-hour day, made a lot of headway. Throughout all that, we had 2 very minor injuries. A gentleman hit his leg with a saw while he was trying to start it, so it wasn't running. He got a small contusion on his shin. Another one was at the old Dick Van Dyke house. Very large tree fell. We tried to clamp it. It didn't hold. The tree rolled down the hill, hit the window on the skid steer, and the gentleman, we thought, broke his leg, but luckily he didn't. Just had a very bad contusion on it as well. So the ladies and gentlemen were working diligently and as safely as possible, and we're very fortunate to, as tired as everybody gets, is to not have any injuries. We took off Sunday, we took off again Tuesday. We were back out Monday and Wednesday. We've got 2 rear load yard waste trucks going around picking stuff up. We are sticking with the A and B yard waste routes for them. We've also got our grappler out on the roads. It is picking up the major piles on the major thoroughfares. I believe he got just about everything on Bowman today. He'll be working on Vermilion and then Gilbert. From one end to the next to try to get our thoroughfares and the most visible areas cleaned up. And then next week we will be working again Friday and possibly Saturday with some crews to continue the cleanup. One of the hardest hit areas, if you haven't seen it yet, is Lincoln Park itself. We didn't have this much damage at Lincoln in '04 when we had the major windstorm, and I would, in my personal opinion, this is probably about a fifth as bad as what it was in '04. So those that you didn't live around here then and you think this is really bad, we have had it worse, but it took a lot longer for us to clean it up back then. My initial estimate was we would have everything picked up in 2 weeks. Well, we picked up our regular yard waste route yesterday, and when I ran it again today, a lot of people have put more out, and that's what we want you to do, but it's just going to take longer because of the period it fell and the fact that no one had power. I do believe a lot of people probably did either leave town to go seek somewhere else to stay, and or you just kind of try to sit around and not sweat too much because there's no way to cool down, unless you're like me and you grew up without no AC, and you know, you get used to that stuff. But anyway, we're very fortunate to have a good crew like we have. We had good managers that I'm very proud of because they didn't get overly excited Thursday when the storm hit. We actually, some of our employees observed our Santa house exploding out in the parking lot. I have it on the video that, yeah, the wind came by and just took it. And that's just the power of the wind. That's just a straight line wind. Our electricians worked almost around the clock trying to keep signs and stoplights going because there was no power. The backup batteries were running down. We purchased generators, chained them to the area. We bought 10 generators. We have 4 left. 6 of them had the chains cut and disappeared. So that's just the way things are. When things get tough, things get tough. So, but we, like I say, we're fortunate. We've got some cleanup work to do. I would really estimate it's going to be probably a full month before we get everything cleaned up. I would encourage you, if you know someone that doesn't have the ability to cut a tree up, to try to get your pastors or community involved and help them cut it. We took a very dangerous tree down today because part of it had already landed in a lady's roof, went clear through it. And there are those stories all around town. So as far as Lincoln Park, we're going to actually contract that out. We do not have a tree truck tall enough to reach that top of that canopy. There are very dangerous limbs hanging in the top of the canopy. I would also encourage you to look in your yard, your neighbor's yards, up into the tree to see if you see broken limbs. I don't know, I hear everybody calling them hangers today. We used to call them widow makers. And they will hurt you severely or kill you if they fall out. You're not going to hear them, they're just going to fall. So please inspect your own trees and those around you.
Please keep your children out of Lincoln Park. I saw some kids playing there the other day. Literally, you could be dead. I mean, just quit that instantly.
Yeah, it's dangerous, it really is. We can't reiterate that enough. So, once again, thank you for everybody for their support. This isn't going to be cheap when you see the final bill. I was comparing some of it to 2019 when we had some wind, and we've far exceeded that, and some of that's just the economy today. But we still continue to need everybody's support. We've had a lot of support from the fire and the police, and we wholly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carl, Mayor, what are we doing, like abandoned properties, or rental properties that are currently unrented, that have damage and next to other people's houses?
Rental properties and landlords will be responsible, and we have had our inspectors out. We're trying to give everybody a little bit of time because every tree service in town is booked to capacity, but we will be requiring them to clean up their property just like we do everyone
How about
else.
vacant properties that you know the owner for?
Abandoned properties,
No, not abandoned, or vacant. Somebody's bought them and they're just leaving them set.
that'll be the responsibility of the landowner. Yes, sir. And our inspectors are on it. We have not started writing any tickets yet, obviously, because people have, with the trees anyways, because.
right. There's several in the Lincoln Park area that are abandoned properties, and a lot of trees have fallen in the alleys, and some of those places still don't have power, where the stuff's fallen in the alleys and taken.
If it's fallen into the alleys, make sure we report it to Public Works, because we will clear if it's in public space.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Anything else, anybody?
Yeah. What is our power outage here in Danville? Is it completed?
As far as we're aware, they've got, I would say, probably 98% of it restored.
Okay.
I've talked to 2 individuals in the last 2 days that said they still don't have it, but I know for a fact one of them was because of the header coming out of the house. That's not Ameren's responsibility. That is the homeowner's responsibility.
But Alderman Center Street, Sheridan, Sherman, they're still working over in that area.
Okay.
Center Street back south around the Lincoln Park area. They're still working, power company's still in there working, trying to get lines restored, but yeah, it's in Maywood. I mean, it seems like it got the worst hit going through that, right through that area.
But overall, Danville has done great in restoring the policy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I also just want to remind the public that unfortunately, the city does not restore power. That's Ameren. They are a private utility company. They've brought thousands of people to the area to help us, and they're doing the best they can. I'm sure y'all have seen the linemen out everywhere, but they've done a good job, and we appreciate their efforts. It's Alderman Butler.
Yes, Carl, I also would like to thank you as well, for a job well done with the Public Works as well as your workers. Also, I noticed on Bowman Street as well, the tree fell down the street, and they put the limbs and stuff. I own a lot there across from the church on Bowman, right off of William Street. And I noticed in the paper it said that if you need your limbs picked up, please give us a call. Do I need to give you a call? Or I'm sure that you're still aware that it's still there on my lot, that you took it off the street and kind of put it up there. I don't mind. You had to have somewhere to put it at the time. And that's at 609, is probably about 610 Bowman Street. That where my church is. Great Shallow Church.
Yeah, and Alderman Butler, we're going to pick everything up. We're
Yeah,
going up and
okay.
down every street. We just encourage everybody to call so that we actually have addresses in case we miss something. We can cross-reference it when we go back to pick it up.
Yeah, okay.
It also, for reporting purposes, will give us a clearer picture of how much damage was done if we have addresses to go by.
Oh, well, I ain't worried about the damage, you know, as long as you got it off the street and everybody's safe, you know, that's all that I'm concerned about. And also within that vein, Mr. Mayor, don't we have some type of disaster fund, you know, to where there will never be run out of resources, you know, for food, you know, to take to people that don't have a vehicle, they can't get to the Salvation Army or get wherever the food is, that we would be able to take it to them. And, you know, I was thinking about getting my truck there, going to the store and get some of those little containers that my wife gets all the time, what they call them, Lunchables. And, you know, and take them out to, you know, the neighborhoods, you know, especially for the kids, because I made contact with the superintendent of the school, and a lot of her schools didn't have power either. And so she couldn't help us. So I'm just wondering, you know, if we don't, I mean, how can we go by getting some type of disaster fund that will help out in that way, you know, especially, you know, like the park areas, Carver Park, Churchill Towers, or Billa Terrace, you know, places a lot like that to where a lot of parents don't have vehicles. Yes, I know they can get anywhere else, but, you know, I'm not worried about the parents, I'm worried about the kids. You know, make sure that the kids are getting food. That's why the district have their lunches and breakfasts every day.
Right. So we do not have an emergency fund for something like that, although we do track in my office and in Administrator Finch's office the calls that we receive, and we have not had any calls for food. I know that Chief Yates and his wife were out bringing people who needed food to the Salvation Army this weekend, and we have not had any major cries for food, thankfully. So the Salvation Army helped. Also, we have our food pantries, and District 118 is resuming their service too. So all the kids will be able to eat, you know, where they're having summer school again, starting tomorrow. So.
Yeah, see, they will open back up today there because I took my kids on up to high school and they had a great meal today. So
yes, sir.
Amber's offering a $500, up to $500 reimbursement for food. If you've lost food in your refrigerator and things, the freezer, they're offering up to $500 allowance for replacing your spoiled food.
Yeah, right. I understand that there, but at the time, you know, like on Friday the next day, you know, there's still no power.
Right.
And so they can't get out to get the food, and they don't have no way of cooking it. And so if we have some way of picking it up and in a truck or a trailer or something, and, you know, pass it out to the kids, and they have something to eat during that time.
Excuse me. Has the city applied for any disaster relief for the Danville?
We have not. I'm waiting for our final declaration from EMA, from the county EMA, from Mr. Rudd. And if we're able to, we absolutely will apply for that, Alderman.
What would that, you know, as far as the parameters for applying for that, what is that?
I'm not certain, but he told me that as soon as they've done their final assessment, he'll let me know if we would be eligible or not. That's one of the reasons why it's very important for people to call in if you have any kind of damage, you know, especially to keep track of that, because what ends up happening is if we're eligible, then people will be able to submit it to us. We will submit it to EMA in order for hopefully some kind of financial assistance.
That'd be great.
As soon as I have that, Alderman, I'll be sure to share it with y'all.
Great.
And then sometime, Mr. Mayor, is that when it said to have the people to call, y'all was fortunate to have my power turned back on the next day. and I ran into some people that live down the street from me, and their cell phones had went dead. And, they didn't have no emergency, even if they had emergencies, they couldn't call. They were going to walk way down to McDonald's. And I said, hey, my power is on. And, I got an outlet there on my front porch. I said, just stick it in there and sit on the porch. Of course, I had to go out and tell the wife that, that there's a woman sitting on the porch. You have to charge up a phone, Yeah, so things like that, people that do things like that for our citizens, so we are a close-knit family that, that's what it takes, a village.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. To make sure that we all safe.
Yes, sir. Yes, Alderman Butler. Chairman, any?
No, I'm good, Mayor, thank you.
All right, thank you for your report. Items of information. Before we get into the discussion on allowance of chickens, are there any other items of information for the good of the cause? Okay, I would, at this time, the floor is open for any discussion on the allowance of chickens, if any of you have comments. Chairman Poore.
Thank you, Mayor. I've talked to a few different people that actually have chickens in the city limits. A lot on the east end. They have roosters living in their house with them. They have more than 5 chickens. All their neighbors, they say, have the same. They also said that they were informed that it's not against city ordinance to have chickens, and that it's not enforceable. My concern is some people will not put up the proper runs. They will not abide by hens only. They will not properly change bedding. They will not keep them watered. They will not have the food or the necessary veterinary care or anything like that if there was a disease. I mean, I remember having chickens when we were little, and my gosh, it seemed like they always got something wrong with their eyes or different things. But, it's, I kind of understood it when eggs were over $4 a dozen because of the bird flu or disease or whatever. But, how are we going to enforce it? Is there going to be a licensing fee? Who's going to pay for an inspector to go around seeing if people are in compliance? What's the license going to cost? Are we going to set forth the guide for how big the run has to be, what type of material it has to be, and things like that? I mean, during this, during the heat, a lot of people have been coming in, getting shade cloths and everything else, trying to keep their chickens cool enough to survive, and in the wintertime the same way. I mean, trying to find heat lamps and things to keep them warm enough. So that's just some concerns I have. It's there's always going to be an element out there that does not follow the rules, and they'll have roosters, and you'll have a cock-a-doodle-doo on every street corner. But anyway, that's just my thoughts.
I have a thought.
Williams.
Is there a great demand to have chickens in Danville? I'm just surprised. Who's going to raise chickens? I used to raise chickens when I was a kid for little bitty chickens we bring in. But nobody wants to raise chickens now. I'm surprised that people want to do that.
Yes, sir, you'd be surprised there, Mr. Williams, of who wants to raise chicken. I want to raise them myself.
Yeah, but you...
If my wife would let me.
Yeah, she ain't going to let you.
She's already said no back there.
Yeah, of course.
She exercised her veto power.
Yeah, some folks don't know the significance of chickens. When you get the chicken feed, to feed those chickens, I've raised, over 100 chickens.
Yeah, I've raised.
And order them through UPS. They come about that big.
Right.
And so we would raise those little chicks, and then when harvest time come, within a family of 10, and we would have a chicken feast. But the thing over there is also, I'm trying to understand about the, Mr. Purr's chicken run. I mean, I haven't heard of that, a chicken coop.
No, there's a
Or
run for
chicken
them to
sheds there, we never did have to have heat lamps and stuff in the chicken coop, and, you got the straw to keep chickens warm, but you do have to have a rooster, of course, to lay good eggs, and, with the chicken. And also, they served another purpose. When the family think we got chicken pox, my mother would put us in that chicken coop, and it would bring it on out, and, and it'll last about 4 or 5 days. So there's a lot of advantages of chickens.
Never heard that.
Yeah, so y'all probably getting a little history, but that's the way it was back in the day.
Yeah, about never having
About what now?
never having chicken pox.
Yeah, right there, when the chicken pox, the bumps get on, our
Put
parents
around
would
the chicken
put us in the pan, and the chicken would fly over you. And that's an old remedy. Y'all might be too young to know anything about that, but hey, it has been done.
Gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I don't see the reason why we have to have license
Pay for an inspector.
raise chickens.
Yes, Alderman, okay.
I just don't want to add one more problem to this city. We got tall grass, abandoned houses, abandoned cars, we have a hard time keeping them, everything else, and people aren't going to be any better with this than they are anything else. If they want chickens, buy themselves a piece of property outside and start their little farm outside the city.
Alderman York.
As part of the attachment that we were provided, there's also a specific example of the ordinance from Champaign, from the city of Champaign. It's very specific, so if you review that, it's in your packet. I mean, and it suggests, I'm not sure if I'm for or against chickens at this point, but I'm trying to discern. But I mean, that's a good example of what they have done, and then it also lays out some requirements for individuals that to obtain a permit if they've had any of history of any kind of ordinance violations within the past 6 months or to a year, then it rules that person out. So I mean, and there's examples, or there's specifications concerning coops and runs and all of that in that attachment. So that's a good thing to review.
When this was first brought up, I did contact Champaign's, their inspection. To my surprise, they said they did not have any problems with it. So, and I would suggest any of you to call over there and talk to them about it, but I was surprised. So I'm on the fence, too. I'm not sure which way I'll go, but I was surprised that they did tell me that.
I'm just curious if our inspectors get a lot of questions regarding the people who currently have chickens in Danville, because I was walking the other day and I saw several coops and people with chickens just in Danville. And, I didn't notice a lot of noise. I didn't notice an odor. And I just wondered if any of those people's neighbors, because these were, houses that were close to each other, contact the city about issues with chickens.
We've had only one case that I can recall since I've been here, and the neighbors were complaining about it regularly, and eventually, we had to make them get rid of their chickens because the neighbors did complain, but that's only one, and I do know that there are others in town.
Were the complaints surrounding roosters, or was it odor? Do you recall what the...
Three things: noise, odors, and predators. Bringing raccoons and other things, possum and stuff to eat them. Any other comments?
Coop probably remembers the pot-bellied pig.
So this is the question that I have, is that, this has come up, over and over again. And my question is, do you want us to spend time working on an ordinance, or do you say, no, we don't want chickens here? I don't want to spend, if you're interested in it, yes, absolutely, we will do the work, and, we'll be glad to do the work. But if you're not interested in it, I don't want to spend a lot of time and resources on staff allocation creating an ordinance if people don't want chickens. It doesn't make sense.
Have we stopped it 3 times already?
It's been 3 or 4 times already, I would say. Yes, Corporation Counsel.
It's been mentioned a couple of times in your discussion about inspecting the chickens or their conditions or whatever. I strongly suspect, I've not had the conversation with my inspectors, that they do not have the capabilities of ascertaining whether the conditions on which chickens are, or in which chickens are living, are correct or not. That would be more of a county animal control issue rather than our inspectors. So that's one. 2, the inspectors are not allowed on property.
Right.
Just to go on and inspect chickens. Typically people, and I happen to have lived in Champaign for 8 years, so I know a little bit about chickens because I was there when the whole chicken issue came up and all, and have some personal experience with a couple of neighbors down the way that had chickens. But for our purposes, whatever you all decide is up to you, but we don't have the authority to go on, and most of the people who have chickens clearly keep them in their side or their backyards, so we have no way of inspecting.
Yeah, my question is there a demand for this?
I think clearly we heard from a couple of people that there is a demand.
Yeah, the 2 people were here, but is there a citywide demand for chickens?
I would say that there's a group, and I'm going to call them young people since I'm middle-aged now, a group of folks who are around 35-ish or younger who seem to be very interested. And on a rare occasion, I hear from an older person. But I would tell you, every time this issue comes up, from the vast majority of the people that I hear from, they do not want it. But I think, as the young lady said, there are opportunities to balance rights, but as Alderman O'Kane said, it kind of concerns me if we struggle with a lot of things already. Do we want to add one more thing to have to try to regulate? I don't know. It's a tough issue for me because generally I believe in freedoms and people's rights and such, but at the same time, this is a tough one to hoe because, like I said, most people that I hear from do not want this.
I agree. And there again, there are two, Mr. Mayor, you know, people are concerned about the price of eggs going up and the price of chicken going up. And I sometimes complain there too, there's sometimes about what are they putting in these chickens, from the factories. Sometimes they don't taste right. They inject them with something. Mm-hmm. And so, if I could raise more some chicken, I would.
Right.
Somebody's shaking their head.
Yes, I mean, these are people that like chicken, obviously, and want to raise their own chickens.
Yeah.
I like to raise my own pork.
Yeah.
Too, but I know I can't bring no pigs.
Right. This is the thing about chickens. I mean, they're going to take special attention, and most people in Danville don't know how to raise chickens. Right there, we run into a problem.
Well, so you'd be surprised about how many folks that know how to raise chickens.
Mm-hmm. Well, Alderman, I've been watching your wife at the back of the room. I think you're in big trouble.
They're like sleeping on the straw.
Well, thanks for the heads up there.
I think this is something that we can debate ad infinitum, so I guess what I would take a straw poll on is if you want us to work on an ordinance allowing chickens or not. If you would like for us to work on one allowing for them, then please say yes or yay, and if not, please say no or nay. Because again, if we want it, I want to work on it and get something good for our community, but if you all don't want it, it doesn't make sense to waste our time continuing to spin the wheels and also giving people false hope. I'll go around. Alderman Cooper.
Yeah, I figured that. Come on, Coop. Actually, I didn't even know this was on the agenda until this lady called me, told me. I agree, I'm not hearing that many people in favor of it, but I haven't had enough time to even poll anybody. I guess one of my concerns is it going to stop at chickens, or are we going to keep adding to it? I mean, that's a concern of mine. And I agree with the inspection department, it's going to be tough for them. I mean, I can't even get grass mowed, let alone chickens running around a yard. I need more study on it, but that's just my opinion. I'm not going to say yes or no.
Okay.
I've heard more opposition against it for some reason, just from my constituents. I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but I'm getting feedback that people don't want it from where I'm at. And that's, I haven't had anybody come to me and say, hey, I'm in favor of it. I've had a lot of people come to me and say, I'm against it.
From your ward?
Yeah. And I didn't necessarily investigate further into what their concern. I mean, I did have some awareness of what the concerns were. Again, predators, noise, and stuff like that. I guess based on that, I'd say no.
Alderman Williams.
Yeah, I love chicken, so, I'm not opposed to having chickens around, but I think we need to definitely have an ordinance before we, put that out, that chickens are available here to be raised in Danville.
Right, so I'm asking, do you all want me to work on an ordinance that's allowing for chickens, or do you want me to?
My vote is to have an ordinance if we're going to have the chickens. Otherwise, no.
Well,
Yeah, yes.
okay. Alderwoman Ludwig?
I've heard both sides. People have come to me saying, I'm opposed, we don't want it, I don't want the predators. And then I've heard a lot of people who've said, I already have it, I'd really like an ordinance so that this is legal. I've also heard other people who are saying, I'd really like to have this because I'm following the laws, and I'd really like to have chickens. So I think I would like some more information from what's going on in Champaign. I do want to talk with the inspectors over there, find out what they're doing that we're not doing, or what we could be doing. That would follow along with whatever they're doing to allow this to work right. And if Sherry's saying that their inspectors are saying they're not having any problems with it, that's very interesting to me. So I would like to proceed with an ordinance and look into it a little bit more.
Okay.
As I said, I'm on the fence, so I think we do need to look into it more because there is people that are concerned about it, that want it. My biggest concern is the inspections, is how we're going to handle that. But I still think we need to look into an ordinance, so yes, I guess we do need to spend the time.
Okay. Chairman.
When this first came out, I mean, I went online pricing chicken coops and all the stuff required. It cost about $500 to get set up. And most of the people that would want this don't have that kind of money to set up properly, and change the water and change the bedding and feed and everything else. So, no.
Vice Chairman.
As you said, this has come up again and again. I've represented 2 different wards now where this has come up, and I've had people on both of my wards. Nobody has supported it that I know of. I think we have a lot more urgent matters to get our corporate counsel involved in than a chicken ordinance. So I'm a no.
Alderman O'Kane.
This is getting a little puppy in your hands, and as it gets older, it starts stinking, and who wants it? It's the same thing to me. I don't think we need this.
Alderman Pashard.
Yeah, I got 3 close, what I consider good friends involved in this, and I told them I would give them my most consideration to the issue, but I was upfront with them and told them that I'm more against it than I am for it. And that's where I'm still leaning. Idea of having to do something like this, I don't want chickens next door to me, so why should I push it off on the rest of the neighbors in Danville? So that's where I'm at.
Thank you. Alderwoman Wands.
Having lived on the farm and taken care of 5,000 chickens,
Come on, Wands.
wading through what I waded through, picking up the eggs, feeding them, watering, I realize we're not speaking on that scope. I realize we're speaking 5 or 6 chickens. But between the varmints and that type of thing, the smell, that's what I remember. And then it concerns me that they would not be able to be inspected. And I think that's putting too much onto our inspectors. They've already got their hands loaded. And as far as Champaign not having any problems, if their inspectors aren't allowed on the properties, I don't know how in the world they're inspecting, or are they inspecting, really? So I'm not saying they aren't, but I'm just saying that is, to me, another issue. If I was living on a farm, believe me, I wouldn't have 5,000 chickens. I might have 2, 3, but I wouldn't have 5,000, because they do bring in predators, and they do, on that volume, they do smell horrible and kick up all kinds of
Nitrates.
I don't expect to have chicken pox, so I'm not going to go let them fly over my head.
Girl, so you just don't know what it's like.
So it's no.
Old school.
Yes, Alderman Butler.
Yes, Mr. Meredith, you know how I feel about it. I mean, why write up an ordinance when we already have ordinance for dogs and so we don't have none for cats. And the varmints, around my house, I don't have nothing at all. I used to have a dog. But now I got, groundhogs, I got coons, I got possums. They're in the neighborhoods already. And so chickens is not going to bring any more. And so what I'm saying is that, if these people can't afford eggs, or say that they can't afford eggs, or can't afford the chickens, why reject them or deny them of raising their own chickens? Yeah, for food. This is food. This is food that they're raising. And I can understand that there. So for us to sit here and try to think about writing an ordinance and and put a restriction on them when this can be their livelihood.
There's already an ordinance on the books against it, so we would have to change the ordinance.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Well, how long have this ordinance been that because I used to raise chicken myself, and I never had any issue. The mayor and the whole city knew that we had chickens.
I don't know when it was changed. It was long before my time on the council, I'm sure.
Potbelly pigs.
I didn't know it. You know that because I never was approached.
So Alderman,
I just can't see us, wasting our time writing up an ordinance.
so you would say yes, you would like to allow chickens, or no?
Yes, I do. Yes, I would like to allow chickens.
Okay. A straw poll of 6 no, 3 yes, and 2 maybe. I would say unless I hear from the other 3 aldermen strongly that their constituents are in favor, I will not ask our corporation council to invest the time in it, in writing another ordinance. I'm sorry, fellas and man.
Mayor,
Yes.
I think Sam wants to speak.
Oh, yes.
I'm not trying to sway. I think the guys that spoke earlier, I think they had a lot more to say and they were courteous of the time. I just wanted to give input. There's been a lot of commentary about this, and I'm not trying to sell you one way or the other. I'm just trying to help give insight into what people that want chickens might think. I myself have had 13 chickens at one time. I grew up on a farm. I don't want to farm. You grow up on a farm, you're either going to be a farmer or you're never going to want to have an animal for the rest of your life. Those are the two things. Chickens are the least messy animal I've ever had. The easiest to take care of I've ever had. They don't bark all night long. Their poop does not stink like a dog does. It doesn't get cleaned up on. There's not a house full of cats that you smell when it rains when you walk down the block. It's just, if you think about, so pretend we didn't have dogs right now, and somebody came to you saying we want to have dogs. They're a lot more dangerous animal at times. I've never heard of anybody getting killed by a chicken. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I've never heard of it. And they are a lot, so you still have inspections and other stuff on those. We don't worry about that. You know, it gets taken care of. They have an obligation. I would assume you would be reporting this to animal welfare. Somebody else would check into it. You know, a lot of the young people that are wanting this, you got to remember that a lot of the generation, I'm assuming, a lot of the generation that's saying no to this, they were a lot more connected to farms and other things and have chosen a different life than that before. The people that want this now are trying to get reconnected to the food system, to what these things are, and they would like the opportunity to do that. They're looking at this for environmentally friendly reasons because they don't like all their food going to the landfill and causing carbon dioxide or whatever the reason may be. They want to be able to control the quality of their food. They want to make sure that they're eating all organic. They can trust where it comes from. They want to be respectful of it. You know, people say, oh, they can't afford a $500 chicken coop, but those same people go buy a $1,000 dog. If they want it, they'll get it. And there's ways to do everything responsibly, you know, and all of these things. So I just, you know, I think that a lot of these things apply to all animals, and there's ways that those are in place. And I just want that statement to be heard before others quickly dismiss this, because to me, done right, they're no more disruptive than my 5 kids. To be honest, my 5 kids are way worse. I have to pick up after them every single day. And here's the nice thing about chickens versus dogs or cats. If you get sick of your chicken, you just eat it. It goes away. You know? Like, it's not like you're trying to find a new home for it. You just eat
There
it.
wouldn't be any butchering in the city of
It's just,
Danville.
but I mean, I'm just saying. Well,
Well, you draw the line.
but anyway, it's, you know, it's a shorter term thing. So I don't know. That's just that perspective, and having those guys be quiet because they're both introverts and I like to talk a lot. So I appreciate you all listening to me and the consideration.
All right, we do not have any need for closed session. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
Carolyn, would you want a copy of that? It's just the word about Carmen. I didn't want a copy of that. It tells, yeah, it tells about the 222